warm welcome to the Family Budget with me, Tanya Bharadwaj. Over the next 30 minutes, we here at ET Now will put the spotlight on what it is that families are expecting from the budget this time round. Well, there's no denying that expectations are running high, especially from those who've rallied behind the government's demonetization drive. Let's get started then and take a look first at what the wish list looks like. It's going to take a lot more than just sweet treats to fix the bitter demonetization aftertaste. It's a move that put a squeeze on middle-class spenders. No surprise then that the expectation is that Budget 2017 will look to put more money in the hands of the people. Here's what's topping the wish list: a hike in the basic tax slab, which could help increase personal disposable income. Enhancing the investment limit under Section 80C might also be handy, or better still, simplify it all and reintroduce standard deduction. What also seems to be the need of the hour is a boost to household savings. Whether it's new investment schemes or inflation-indexed bonds, it will all help to have that extra something for a rainy day. Some mouth-watering sops to jump on to the digital bandwagon wouldn't hurt either. Well, one thing's for sure, the writing on the wall is clear. Have money, we'll spend. Well, those were just some of the things we hope that the finance minister will pay heed to when he tables the budget this time round. But we at ET Now thought it would be a good idea to actually sit down with a family and get a better sense of what the living room chatter is when it comes to budget expectations. And for just that, I am at the Kandhari residence. Guys, thanks so much for taking time out for us. I know that I will be right in saying that this time the budget gains a lot of importance because it's coming on the heels of what's been, to say the least, a very exercising and trying time for all of us, and that's of course the government's decision to ban both the 500 and 1,000 rupee note. Let's talk about how it's impacted your personal economy.
Initially when it happened, you felt good because you've been paying all your taxes and doing everything right, and some people in the society have not been. So it was a way of getting back to them. But what it translated into was that it wasn't planned very well. Somewhere upside there, didn't know how the things will pan out in such a manner. So seeing those lines, seeing the issues which went along with it, people dying and people not having cash, and India being a rural economy, not everybody having access to bank accounts, it dampened that feeling of well-being, number one. Number two, it didn't achieve all the objectives we believe it was set out to achieve. Thirdly, it did impact the household incomes of many, many people.
I went to the chemist and bought a whole load of medicines. I mean, I had little cash in the house, which I could have easily deposited into the bank without any questions asked. But just because it was there, so we just went and bought 3 months medicine stock for all of us.
The problem there was because the lines at the banks were so long. It was a great move, but they implemented it quite poorly. So they could have done that a little better. And that's why people were just running to the ATMs, running to the banks, trying to deposit their cash. Otherwise, it was a great, bold move. That's what I feel personally.
So for me, it was such a bold move. I've been complaining about my taxes going up more than my income in the last 2.5 years. So when this happened, I was like, wow. And it took me a split second to realize actually what this is targeted towards. And when I realized that, I was like, wow, man, fabulous. Even if it, even though, there was planning, ki, acha, ye kaise karenge, how will I buy food in my canteen? Because there is the only place where cash is accepted. I slept very happy that night. Because I was like, wow, yeah, for the first time, you felt like you're not disadvantaged to be, having been an honest tax-paying citizen. Because I complain about my taxes to my brother and my father every year. Like, why can't you help me save taxes?
You can't do anything. You're a salaried employed, so there's very little pressure.
No, I think it was a move that came and which gives you a little bit of a superiority feeling at one time. Said, I'm honest, I'm paying my taxes, and now it's time for somebody else also to share that burden.
That's just it, right?
That's
Because
where the budget comes in.
Exactly. We are hardworking, honest, tax-paying citizens. So then realistically, what is it that the government can do to sort of make up for the pain that this note ban might have caused? Realistically, what is it that you're expecting in the budget?
Bringing down of income tax rates. That was the first thing that struck me, and the way it's played out, like what he said, yes, there are hardships, and fortunately they don't affect us that much because, like he said, we were already on to digital payments. It's been, you know, small things. Like I remember writing to somebody in my office saying, yeah, get Paytm. Like people are not going to buy canteen food. They'll be ordering from, you know, all these hola chefs and fresh menus of the world because you are not giving them Paytm. And in the next 2-3 days, they had it. But business has gone down because the amount of money in circulation has become lesser. So there is short-term impact on every business, which I feel will affect our let's say a salary class. It will affect our appraisals. I mean, that's the buzz in office. That's what I've heard. So some way to compensate for that, like this should be a win for us as, you know, tax paying citizens. So I'm not saying like take away income tax, but at least the you know, the minimum limit of you know, it should go up for amount of income.
Take away income tax is wishful thinking.
It's not going to happen, but some short term benefit should be there, right? Otherwise, what's the point?
You can increase allowances. Like today, a conveyance allowance is 19,000 bucks a year.
Yeah.
That is literally peanuts. Who doesn't spend more than 19,000 bucks a year?
Yeah.
Or you should do away with these allowances altogether, like your rent, your medical and all. Just have a standard deduction for a salaried class.
Like simplify it.
Yeah, because it creates so much of hardship. I have to get bills, I have to get, there's so much for me as well as my company. So it's so much simpler. Just do away with all this, like your telephone bills, and just do away with that and just have a standard deduction as per your taxable slab. That's so simple. That's what I would think.
Well, I think tax incentives have always been at the top of the mind whenever the budget is announced, right? And all of us look forward to that. Something is going up, something. This time it becomes a little bit more important because you know, the economy having gone through a hard time and lots of people having been put to a disadvantage, the government needs to do something a little bit more than what it would have done otherwise. Plus, it also needs to bring out certain areas of employment generation, for instance. They need to bring out as to how they're going to help these people get started with their life back again. So I think that's the real importance of this budget. It's not the simple you know, managing of your books and giving you an incentive here or an incentive there. I think because of this problem, you have to think of a little bit of a better paradigm as to how you're going to interest people. So as a householder, even I'm interested. I'm interested in how our healthcare is going to take shape, how our, you know, where our children are going to study. Are they going to get jobs? Are they not going to get jobs? So all these aspects are important.
What about incentives for digital payments? I mean, sure, the government has gone all out and everyone's been pretty gung-ho to sort of jump onto this digital bandwagon. But do you think that there is still more scope in the budget for incentives for digital payments, or to go, you know, cashless or at least less cash?
Yeah, I think so, because even as of now, I mean, all these things, my pest control, for instance, told me if I make an online payment, he's going to give me a certain percentage of a discount. So which makes me want to do it. I mean, and in future, if there's some offerings like that, it would generally definitely help me, and I would turn online. Doesn't make me any difference, because anyway, I write out either a check. So if I make it an online payment, it's going to not make me any difference. And if I'm going to get a cashback on it, on certain incentives, I'll definitely do it.
The point is, how far has our internet become? In the urban areas, it's quite easy to say all this, that we can do the digital payments. But in the rural areas, the internet connectivity isn't that great. So how do you expect people to have a Paytm or a digital wallet or make a payment online? So that's something the government should look into. So that is one thing for us, because living in urban cities, I think it's fairly simple, and almost everything is becoming digital these days.
But you know that the other thing about going cashless is also the security part of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All of us don't want to use cards, not because it brings us into the tax net or this thing, but we also worry about security. You know, if you're living in the words of passwords and security, then you want to know that you're not going to be hacked and your whole life is going to be in a disarray just because of the cashless society that you're entering. So I think that's where a lot of effort needs to go, along with popularizing these modes of payments and this thing.
What about household savings? Because now if you're a saver, the fact is that you're losing out on some of, say, the money that you have stashed away in a FD. Gold also to some extent has lost its sheen. Do you think that this time the budget can also do a lot more than it usually does to encourage household savings?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Household savings are important.
Yeah.
Clearly, because we went and got our FDs done because we know the rates are coming down.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thought process with everybody.
Yes.
Especially the senior citizens, and my mother is 70 plus, and she told me, she said, get my FD done before the rates go down. So they need a certain sustainable income. So while you may have to carve out a certain portion of the society where do get that sustainable income as the interest rates coming down are good for the businesses to start doing well.
Yeah.
I run a business, so I need to, if the interest rates are down, it catches on with my investment activity and things become better. But these are important. These are important stuff to be done in the budget.
What about you guys, Nikita, Kunal? Because y'all are young professionals. Where do you save, and do you think there are enough lucrative avenues for you to actually
save? Simple thing is maybe they can increase the limit of your ETC investments and all. Right now it's at 1.5 lakhs. Maybe make that 2.5. That just gives me an incentive to save more. Put it in PPF or put it in some bonds. That is one important thing. Secondly, if it is at this age that I think about buying a house, so maybe incentivize that. Give me certain incentives for my home loan or something like that. That'll going to help me to at least look for buying a house. So that is one thing maybe the budget should address this time around.
Yeah, I think just adding to him, even I've been thinking I should invest in property. So some incentives in that area, or incentivizing me to save more in PPF, which I already do. I think that would be really helpful because there's no point in saving so much and then just have it lie around, right? You need to invest in it, and if investment avenues are not going to be lucrative, then it defeats the purpose of this whole exercise.
The other thing that's been quite the buzzword these days is GST, the goods and services tax, and finally there's been some breakthrough. Sure, the government's not going to be able to meet its 1st April deadline, but before we know it, we're going to have this new tax regime. Is that something that you think the budget will give us some clarity on?
All we hope is that the things don't become more expensive and I can go out as much as I do as of today also. And that's it, that GST should not have a negative impact on us. It's a great thing that they're going towards. I think doing away with these 3-4 taxes and having just one is a great move. Just hope that things don't become more expensive and bad for the common people.
Yeah, because we are always eating out every weekend, so we hope that's not going to become more expensive.
I think obviously the futuristic outlook is that it should benefit everybody. Then it should be table stakes. Everybody should be, at common ground as tax-paying citizens. But if it means going from 15% to 18% on common everyday things, it's bound to hurt.
Well, I think it's going to be a short-term pain, but hopefully it's good for the economy because the government needs to shift or enlarge its tax base. They need to fund banks, they need to fund a lot of other things, and unless they tax us in a different way, they're not going to get those resources. So this is a good way to get these adequate resources, plus simplify the tax regime quite substantially. Plus getting all the people who are outside the tax net into the tax net.
Okay, so short-term pain, but for the long-term
gain.
But I think people have become so angsty that they'll judge it in the short run. As in, that's how everyone is talking about demonetization.
And that's just it, right? That's going to be the tough task.
And unless they get in more taxpayers, if the present taxpayers are only going to be taxed more, I don't think it serves any purpose.
Yeah.
So then it is a very big pain.
Thank you, all of you, for taking time out for us. It was great chatting with you. So there you go. That's at least what the Kandharis want. Let's hope that the finance minister is listening. We'll slip into a short break. When we come back, family number 2, the Nyers, will join in for a chat. Welcome back to the Family Budget, a show that puts the spotlight on what the household view is as far as expectations from Budget 2017 go. Well, I am at the Nyer residence, and joining me on the show, Rashi and Anoop. Guys, thanks so much for taking time out for us. Let's talk about the expectations. There is an air of anticipation, as it were, that this time on the tax front, we're going to see many more SOPs than we have ever before. What is your expectation as far as, tax savings go?
I agree with you, Tanya. I think before every budget, of course, there's always that hope and expectation that this time round as well, there'll be a further reduction in taxes. But given how painful the entire demonetization exercise has been for a lot of us honest, tax-paying citizens, we're really hoping that this time round in the budget, there'll be something really good for us to look forward to.
Yeah, and there's enough incentive for the government from a note ban perspective to take out the black money, flush it back into the banking system, hoping that they have enough incentive to reward the tax-paying citizens, the guys who've been paying their TDS at source, so to speak, and the middle class who've been giving much needed push to the online system. So yeah, fingers crossed. We're hoping for a good tax slab increase there.
Yeah, that's actually the view to everybody that you speak. But let's talk a little bit about the note ban since you guys have alluded to it. Did it change things drastically or dramatically for you, for your household economy?
Well, not particularly. We were largely cashless even before the note ban. What it has done for us is it has basically widened our horizon in terms of the services that we take from the market, and that has become primarily now online as well, and that's very nice to see from a digitalization perspective. So that's a great step in the right direction.
I totally agree with Anu. I think what's happened because of this is the fact that more people now accept electronic wallets. So we anyway did live a life where we didn't carry too much cash in our wallets, but because of this we can now continue to live that life far more easily. Interestingly, even like for example our nanny, right? She didn't even have a bank account, but after this entire demonetization, the note ban, she's now looking at getting a bank account. The guy that delivers andas to our house, for example, right, or milk, he's now saying, you know what, I accept electronic wallets, right? So things like that have really made life far more easier for us.
Do you think that the budget could perhaps incentivize further some of these, digital payments, e-wallets? Is there enough right now in the system for more people to sort of jump onto this bandwagon, or a lot more needs to be done?
Most definitely. I think the incentive is to stay cashless than be cashless. As soon as the circulation problem kind of eases down, you will see behavioral problems with regards to online banking or online transactions. And I think the government should incentivize citizens to continue to stay cashless. And I think that is the real victory versus, onboarding cashless mechanisms.
I see what you're saying. I think it's also about the fact that, so for example, while our Andawala may have started taking the wallets now, it'll be interesting to see after the note ban is no longer there, after, the cash is back in the system like it used to be earlier, will he continue to take the wallet, right? Or will he now say, no, now let's go back to cash, right? And so therefore, staying cashless more important than, becoming cashless to start with.
We're sitting in this beautiful house that you folks just bought recently. Let's talk about the real estate sector and, the impact that the note ban's had on it. Do you think that this time round, the budget will perhaps look at addressing some of the norms, rules, regulations in this industry?
Most definitely. Real estate was primarily a black market, in the past. What we're looking, from an expectation perspective, what we're really looking forward to is transparency from this government in this sector. Given the falling interest rates, government should incentivize new homeowners from either taxation, tax saving perspective or the HRA perspective. Give them, in addition to the falling interest rate, give them a shot in the arm to start investing, and that will have its positive churn in the overall economy.
Rashi, let's talk about household savings. As Anoop was saying, interest rates are coming down, and that basically means that if, like any good Indian, you're invested in FDs, you're basically not seeing the kind of returns that you did, say, almost a year ago. You guys are newly minted parents, so I'm sure planning and saving for the future is a big priority. Do you think that the budget could do anything to really incentivize household savers like you guys?
Absolutely. I think as parents of a 7-month-old daughter, it'll be nice to see what the government has in store for the girl child, in line with, say, Sukanya Samriddhi. If there are more such schemes or better schemes, that'll be pretty interesting to look at.
I couldn't agree more with Rashi. I think falling interest rates are definitely a hit on the deposit rates, and that's primarily the plain vanilla investment instruments that all of us have been using. But this will also push a normal citizen to equity markets, for example.
Yeah.
And the government should incentivize more participation in the equity markets. And that's where us, economies like us in China will benefit largely from such participation.
But yet, there are many who are a little wary of investing in stock markets because of the high risk that kind of investment brings with it. Do you think the government's done enough to again incentivize that asset class?
Most definitely, I think the government has done a lot to educate the retail investors of what the equity markets holds for them. There is enough incentive from going digital perspective. Access to stock market has become much easier, and the government's done a fabulous job there. I think what the government now needs to think is what's in it for a retail investor to start letting go of fixed deposit and start looking at equity as an alternate form of investment, right? And I think tax obviously plays a big role there. So capital gains is something that they'd be more interested in looking at.
What would also be nice is, of course, given with this new addition in our lives, I think our risk appetite has gone down. Yeah. Our focus has also changed in our portfolio and the way that we save. Our focus on insurance has gone up drastically, and it would be nice if maybe this budget had something which maybe reduced the premiums a little bit on that front.
So let's talk about the GST, and there's been so much said about it. We know that it's a tax reform that's not going to meet its 1st April deadline. We're probably going to see it roll out sometime in July. But what's your understanding of what it will really mean, for the economy?
So most definitely, I mean, the fact that they couldn't meet the 1st April deadline does not mean it's not coming. For sure, 1st July we'll see the rollout. Obviously, from a household perspective, it will kind of inflate your prices initially, but overall, I think it's a really good thing that's going to happen to the nation. We're looking forward to what's it's going to bring in terms of services and overall prices of the commodity and household consumer goods. I think in the near future, after the rollout, there will be some commotion in how taxes are understood and the overall infrastructure around it. But I think those are teething troubles that we will get over soon.
As a family, I think a lot of our income is spent on things like eating out and traveling, etc. So I'm really hoping that there's a reduction in the service tax, at least for those kind of components.
Yeah, we live in hope, don't we? Thanks, you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
With Feb 1st just round the corner, here's the family wish list. Well, that brings us to the end of the family budget. Hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed putting the show together for you. Until next time, keep it with ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.